I have to tell you guys a story. The other day, I was leaving the church parking lot, and I had Omi and Dorothea and Finn in my back seat. And my passenger seat was clear, and I saw a gentleman walking through, I'm so directionally challenged, guys, walking through the little parking lot down there, and he had a case of Bush in his hand and a bag. And I said to the kids, I said, hey, you think that guy needs a ride? And it was hot. Okay, it was that kind of hot where you step out your car for 2 minutes and you don't know if you put deodorant on anymore because it's so gross, you know? It's like where you want a layer of clothes under your clothes, you can take off the soaking wet layer, you know, it's just, and so it's funny. So I say that. Now my kids know me, right? So I'm like, do you think he needs a ride? And it's funny because Finn says, this is how people get killed. You know, and like, I get it. I totally get it, right? And then, Dorothea says, she might have said beer or alcohol. She's like, but what if he smells like beer or alcohol, you know? And I'm like, oh, well, this is more the reason, you know? And so as I'm exiting the parking lot, I see him stop and put down his case of beer and have to switch hands, you know? And I'm like, yeah, guys, we're going to give him a ride. And so I pull up and I ask him, I'm like, hey, do you need a ride? You know, and he says, oh, sweetie, I'm only a few blocks down the road. I'm like, well, great, sweetie. It's hot out here, so come and get in my car. You know, and he comes around and he gets in my car. And did he smell like alcohol? Ding, 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 winner, winner, chicken dinner, you know? And the funny thing about it was it didn't make a bit of difference. Because as we drove there, I was asking him how he was doing. And he's like, oh, you didn't have to do this. I just live down the street. And I was like, I care where you live. You know, and I was like, well, I got one for you. As we're driving around the corner, I said, you know, people are so judgmental and this and that. And I was like, I saw you put your case down and switch hands with it. And I thought, like, gosh, that guy needs a ride. And it is really hot out there. And I was probably talking freely, so I probably had some choice words in there that I can't say at the pulpit. And so then, you know, I said, well, here's one for you. I said, you know that church that you just passed by? I'm like, I'm the pastor there. And he has that natural shock, guys. Do I just not look pastor worthy? I don't know what the shock is every single time. But, you know, I tell him that, hey, you know, like, I'm looking at you and I don't care. You know, I'm like, what's been going on? What's the best part of your day? I do not care to judge him, to get caught up in all that. I just saw someone in the hot sun and he could have been carrying a Capri Sun box for all I care. It was hot and he needed a ride. But as we get to talking, you know, and I invite him to service and I tell him, like, I didn't give you a ride to invite you to service. And yeah, you probably don't look like some of the people in the congregation. And I said, but you know, we would love to have you. And I promise, like, if you come walking in, they'll accept you. They'll be glad to see you. You know, and it's funny because as he goes to get out of the car, he's like, this was totally unexpected. You know, and he's just so thankful. And I think to myself, am I going to see him on Sunday? Heck if I know, right? But I said to him, I said, look, I don't care whether or not I see you on Sunday. I said, but you know, I felt more like a minister being in that car. I felt more like the church. I felt more like Jesus being in that car with him than sometimes I do standing up here on Sunday morning. And that's been a message that's rang throughout my ministry. When I actually stop, when I actually chase someone down who maybe doesn't look like me, maybe doesn't smell like me, maybe doesn't think or believe like me, but I chase them down to say, hey, who are you? How is your day going? How can I serve you today, even if it's just a drive 2 blocks up the street? And it was a great experience. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for joining us. If you want to join us in person, we're here Sunday mornings at 10:30 and Sunday school at 9 o'clock at 201 West 3rd Street. I hope to see you guys there.